Hello, my friends. It's Al Roberts, and I'm here again today to tell you to mind your business. What are we talking about today? Today, we're talking about minding your business as it relates to you being on solid ground in this unstable environment, in this unstable society. You know, right now there's a whole lot of things going on. Just before we did this video, someone called me up and said that Trump has his top military people meeting at the Pentagon. They're afraid that something's about to happen. So my question to you, are you stable in this unstable society? There is so much going on. We don't know from one day to the next whether there's going to be higher interest rates or lower interest rates. We're just not certain. Is it going to be affordable homes? We don't know. It's uncertain. Is there going to be a war? People are talking about a civil war. We're uncertain. We really don't know. So what do you need to do? What do I need to do to be ready, to be prepared no matter what? Well, that's what I want to talk to you about today. First thing we want to do regarding staying ready is to be in position. Be in position no matter whether you're dealing with obstacles in life or opportunities. You're prepared either way. So, a question for you in particular is, are you in a situation where you can pay your bills, or are you living paycheck to paycheck? Is there a surplus at the end of the month? Or are you borrowing? Are you spending on credit cards because you're not earning enough? Well, it's time to check yourself. I'm asking these questions because I want you to be prepared. So ask yourself these questions. If you're married or if you're in a relationship, go ahead and have that conversation with your significant other or even your whole family. Are you prepared? In 2008, there were a lot of people, including myself, that was not prepared. In my case, I wasn't prepared. I gave up a business, a income producing vehicle, and I kind of laid back and took it easy for too long, and things got out of control. What's your situation? Will you be in position? How about your credit? Are you managing your credit for no matter what happens in our society? When hard times come, like 2008 or 2020, for the C thing that we can't say over the internet these days, credit dried up. Banks pulled in credit lines. If you had a credit card that had $20,000 on it, banks dropped that down to $2,000 or $1,000, but credit dried up. Will you be prepared if something happens? The next thing is disposable cash. I mentioned that earlier. Is there disposable cash at the end of the month? Is that disposable cash growing or is it getting smaller? At the end of the month, if there is an additional $300, $400, $500 left over after you pay bills, is that number getting bigger every month or smaller every month? I would imagine with inflation, for most people, that number is getting smaller. People are afraid. They're afraid that they're not going to be able to meet all their family needs. Is that the position you're in? If that's the case, I want you to start growing that cash position. I want you to grow that disposable income. So instead of it being $200 left, I want you to grow that to $500. How do you do that? You do that by looking at a budget or increasing your income, whatever it takes. Go out and get that side hustle. I don't care if it's Uber or, back in the day it was go throw newspapers that don't exist anymore, but do what it takes to grow that income. All right. Number two, do you have the basic protections in place? Basic protections are things like health insurance. Do you have health insurance? If something happens in this situation, are you capable of going to the hospital, getting the care that you need, or just going to the doctor? Your child needs stitches or your child has the flu or something. Can you get health care for your children or yourself or your spouse? So basic protection, health care. How about life insurance? If something happened to you, where would your family be? People think that, I'm 25, I'm 35, I'm 40, I don't need life insurance. But what your family needs is that income that you've been producing over the years. If all of a sudden you were nowhere around and that, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 that you're bringing in was not available to your family, what situation would it put them in? Would your children, your husband, your wife, would they be able to remain in the house or the apartment if your income all of a sudden disappeared? I want you to think about that. Basic protection. Last thing on that is a will. You think that your valuables are not major. If it's, say, hey, I only own a car, I only own the clothes, I only own the watch. All those things are valuable. And you want your loved ones, if something happened to you, God forbid, you want them to be able to legally keep those things and benefit from them. So a will is not something that's complicated. I personally use an organization called LegalZoom, LegalZoom.com. For a couple $100, they'll do a will, they'll set up trust, they'll do the things to give you those basic protections so that you can protect your family. Okay, how about an emergency fund? Do you have 2 to 6 months of income set aside? And I'm not talking about on a credit card, but do you have 2 to 3 months of income sitting to the side in a savings account or in some investment program that's liquid that you can get to very easily if something happened? You need that because you don't know. You may not be able to rely on those credit cards in the near future. And lastly, managing your credit is basic protection. If your credit score is under a 680, you're going to pay a higher price for everything that you purchase. If you go out and buy a car, if you have to go out and finance furniture, you buy a home, you're going to pay more for it in interest simply because of your credit score. That's something simple. And let me just give you one tip. I won't go into a long, in-depth story about your credit score, but something very simple. If you remember this, your credit score will stay decent. That is, keep all your balances 30% below whatever your ultimate amount is. So if you have a $10,000 credit card, if you keep it below $3,000, your credit will stay in a pretty decent situation, assuming that you pay everything on time. All right, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. I hope it proves to be beneficial. I hope that it will help you to stay on solid ground in this unstable environment. Please like, subscribe, share, and be blessed.